Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. We are taking the EZA Strength full power Frieza into ESPR. We're going back into the Wicked Bloodline stage again because it's the most recent stage, so we are rocking that 200% lead. And we already have the exact rotation I wanted to start with, which is one of the golden Friezas with full power Frieza, so he can sit in slot 2 and avoid some unnecessary damage. So since there's so many attacks coming against him in slot 2, even though I do think he can tank these relatively well, I'm going to pop in Icarus. Not a Whis. We're going to have a little bit of damage reduction. Just a little. So we're going to give all of these key spheres to him to make sure he hits an 18 key. Of course, we haven't lost any HP, so he doesn't have any extra key, any extra attack buffs, nothing like that. Just pure key +4 attack and defense +120 at the start of turn, greatly raising attack and defense on 18 key, and getting the additional defense +40% performing the super attack. Which is why he should be able to defend relatively well, especially with the Icarus active, because that is multiplicative. And then again, he's getting that attack and defense +50%, or great raising his attack and defense by 50%, sorry, on his 18 key on top of that. That's still some very good damage up here. Okay, we're getting supered with 118 key in an Icarus. What are we taking? 175k, and then double digits. This is what I mean. Defensively, he's actually really solid. Really solid. Like, they literally gave him everything he needed to be defensively sound in 2022 Dokkan without having the likes of guard and damage reduction. Again, I know he had an Icarus active, but still, some units would still take like 200-300k with an Icarus active there. This is what I mean. That additional 40% defense when performing a super attack, because that is multiplicative and he's an LR, that makes his stats, so that makes his defense specifically jump up. And then on top of that, greatly raising his attack and defense for the turn as well. Yeah, there's a reason why he's so defensively solid. And do you know what? That damage output, I know it was what, just over a 4 mil attack stat, but doing like what, 2.5, almost 3 mil on a crit, and he doesn't even have any of his additional offensive buffs, because we don't have 80% HP or less. We're not down to 40% HP or less. We have neither of the extra attack +40% that we can get, and he's still done almost 3 mil on a crit. So I'm not gonna lie, that's still very impressive. I'm not gonna lie, he's not performing at his pinnacle, but that's still some very good damage output, even though he still has a whole lot more he can do. And he starts, look at that, he starts with 182k defense at the start of turn. I mean, Icarus is gone. I'm not gonna pop one. I kind of want him to be super attacked without an item active to see how much damage he takes. I know that risks us dying. I mean, we do actually also have the 80% HP or less, so we're now up to a 6.6 million attack stat because of that. That HP kind of, you know, condition, we're actually being supered. So again, 118 key, what are we taking? That's still pretty good. That is still pretty good. You know, Wicked Bloodline, as I said, is one of the more recent. It is actually on global anyway, the most recent ESBR stage. So, you know, as I keep saying when it comes to like revamping longer events like Goku and Vegeta event, which they're probably not going to do, the Super Battle and ESBR are constantly being upscaled, constantly being updated because of the 200% lead, because of the new units. I mean, you see it, the new stages do so much damage. But 300k, just over 300k is a lot of damage to take. Do not get me wrong, I'm definitely not saying it's not. But 300k with no item active, 118 key, not even 2, you know, because on 18 key, of course, he can greatly raise attack and defense by 50%. On 12 key, if he gets an additional, he can raise his attack and defense by 30%. Literally with 118 key super, no item, and he takes 300k. Again, I know that's a lot of damage to take. To be fair, a little bit less than it used to be because of how much health you can have nowadays on your teams with the 200% lead. Like on this team, we're on 600k, so that's half our health. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of damage to still take. The unit that doesn't have guard or damage reduction only does 118 key super, and he tanks that for 300k. That's actually pretty decent. Now, I'm going to heal, and we're probably not going to have any of our damage reduction with the Friezas, so I'm going to pop an Usher. But I have to say that was pretty good. That was actually pretty good. He tanks relatively well, I can't lie. You know, is he going to be able to tank a super from Cell Max? Probably not. Probably not, even if he does get the additional 12 key off, probably not. But do you know what? In terms of basics, he actually might be able to tank Cell Max basics. I mean, not amazingly well, but better than a lot of other units in the game. And you see that, again, we don't even have our HP, you know, at 80% or less, 40% or less, and he's still doing 3.5 mil on a crit. Again, defensively solid, not even performing at his peak when it comes to, you know, where offensively where we can get him to, not even performing anywhere near his peak, and he's still doing some very, very good damage. I know he's hitting a crit a lot of the time, because I think he's either 79% or 90% the dupe system. I cannot remember how many dupes I have in him. All I know is I do have more than one dupe in him. I just can't remember exactly if we have 2 or 3. However, he's still performing really well. You know, are you a lot of the time in harder content going to get down to 40% HP or less? Yes. Are you going to maintain it there so Frieza can keep doing, you know, the best damage he possibly can? No. You know, in a lot of harder content, you're going to heal there. Unless you've run out of items, or maybe you just have weases or don't have a form of actually healing yourself, that's the only time you're really going to maintain it, which is already a little bit of a risk. But I mean, defensively, again, he's solid, so maybe he would actually do kind of well in some red zone stages if it came to it. Like, Cell Max event, you only get to take Senzu Beans, and to make sure you actually survive, you're always popping them at the beginning of the turn if you don't have full health or anywhere near it. So, you know, when it comes to hard content, it's a little bit shaky, you know, getting his full, or getting him to his very best, getting him to his pinnacle by being at 40% HP or less. However, it's not difficult to get there in harder content. It's just you're not going to stay there because it's a little bit too risky to do. But as you saw, as you're seeing, even without the full, you know, attack plus 40% from being at HP at 80% or less, or even 40%, having both of them, he's still performing really, really well. Even, I think one of them in harder content is all he really needs. You know, especially with how much damage we're seeing him do. Especially also, you know, while being defensively solid as he is. Unfortunately, we're not going to get an 18 key off of him this turn. So I'll save them tech key spheres for the transforming Frieza. And we'll attack Nappa for that type advantage. But so far, I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. I would love to see, even though this is very RNG related, I would love to see how much he tanks a super for. If we hit his 18 key and then get an additional and raise our attack and defense by 30% on the 12. With no item active. Because he's already tanking double digits off of it. Wow. No item active. Literally, we didn't get the 18 key this turn. 112 key and he's tanking for double digits. Okay, now I'm like doubly impressed. Now I'm extra impressed. I thought the main reason why he was tanking so well was because we hit the 18 key. However, we just hit a 12 key. 112 key, no additional, just 112 key. Raise attack and defense by 30%. 112 key and he's tanking double digits with no item. I'm impressed. I'm actually very impressed with this Frieza. Very, very impressed. Maybe I will try him in some harder content like Red Zone than that. He could actually work. Especially if you're hitting the 18 key and the additional 12 key comes off. You're definitely tanking very well. I think the only one he wouldn't work too well in, which, I mean, hardly any units in the game do, only a handful do, is Cell Max, because he just does too much damage. But yeah, 112 key super and he's tanking for double digits. I know this is the SPR and Red Zone's a bit of a step up, but, you know, if you're hitting your 18 key, and especially if you're getting additional, he should be fine. I mean, I already thought he was a very solid EZA as it is. However, I really like him. I really like him. As I said in this showcase, the only thing that really goes against him, the only thing that really lets him down is the fact that he has the same name as the LR-AGL Full Power Frieza. And if you have him, are you really going to be taking this guy over him? Probably not. Because that AGL Full Power Frieza is better than him. Not only that, for longer events, way better than him. You know, stacks defense on the 18 key. Stacks attack on the 12 key. You know, he has built-in additionals as well, so you can potentially stack both a lot of the time, especially if he gets hit. And if you have dupes as well, can also potentially hit another one. Get another additional active. So, I mean, where are you realistically, if you have the other Full Power Frieza, realistically, where are you actually going to be using him? If you have the AGL LR Full Power Frieza, realistically, where are you going to be using the EZA Strength Full Power Frieza? Realistically, nowhere. Unless you decide just to use this one over the AGL one, which a lot of people aren't going to do. Because even in shorter content, the LR AGL full power Frieza is viable because of the extra attack and defense plus 100% he has for like 6-7 turns. And especially if you're against super class enemies as well. Like, for as long as you're in the fight, he's going to have the extra boost. You may not be able to stack. I mean, you may take this Frieza over him in short content just because he's a bit more defensively solid immediately. But still, the other Frieza is also viable for shorter content. Definitely viable for longer content. So that's the only thing that's really against the strength full power Frieza. Look at Cooler doing work on the Dokkan attack again. That's the only thing that's really against him is where's the space for him? There isn't one. Where are you going to run him? As I said, if you do have the other one, you may take him in ESBR just because he's more defensively solid immediately compared to the AGL Frieza. Like, you'd probably need to stack up like 2 times probably for him to be somewhat safe in ESBR. But if you don't have him perfect, I mean, you have space for him, but realistically, where are you actually going to be using this guy if you have the other one? But I can't lie, I'm impressed. I've even got a whole new record in 10 minutes and 50 seconds. But he is very good. Defensively, really solid. And again, you're not always hardly ever performing at your pinnacle because you don't really want to be sitting at 40% HP or less. You know, it's a little bit shaky. But just having 80% HP or less, which, you know, you're more comfortable with leaving your HP at that mark, you're going to get there a lot of the time in harder content because of how hard it hits. So even with just the one, the damage output, actually even without the one, you know, extra 40% attack he gets, even without it, he's still putting out some very good numbers, defensively solid, but you only really need one, especially because the 40% is just not safe to be sitting at in terms of HP. But I'm really impressed. He's actually really, really good. I do want to give him a go in red zone. I said not even performing at his offensive best, defensively solid. I'm impressed, man. There's just not too much space for him. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. And peace!